Hello, hello. It is Tuesday night, and you know what that means. It is time for another couch conversation with the People's Pride Project. And this week, we have the lovely Madam Vanessa Arias Martinez here. You want to go down? You want me to let me give you let me get the intros going.
Go ahead, go ahead. Give me an
Occupational therapist, homeschooling mother, woodworker extraordinaire,
insight.
empowerment maven. What else do we want to call you? Because I think you've got the package going. Where
Hmm,
do we want to go with this?
let's see, you said occupational therapist, homeschooling mama, and just like a creator. I like to create things just to feel good.
And I think that's something we should all spend more time doing, to be honest. Um, and that's a really good way to start it because the crux of what the People's Pride Project is about is being authentic to yourself, being autonomous or self-governed, and how that relates to growing the community and living in an independent way. So the idea of being to create from within, like take the idea and make it something in the real world or the real world, is paramount to that. You get what I'm saying?
Totally.
I think you're right in, well, obviously, I think you're right in line with what we're doing. He wouldn't be here. So go ahead and you get the ball rolling. Where do you want to start with it?
Well, we were, you and I connected in the sense of like that we want to help our community be just
Mm-hmm.
independent, and not have to rely on certain systems to eat, to thrive,
Mm-hmm.
educate themselves, and just to be just to improve their well-being.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the reason why I became an occupational therapist, was because I saw a different angle to wellness, which was through like using your creativity in
Mm-hmm.
order to like seek wellness, like if you're in the mud, like how can you get out of it, if you have no tools? Like, are you going to stay there, or are you going to somehow find a way that you're going to feel good about it at the end, you know? And like that's for any kind of disability, whether it could be mental, physical, or just like status, like your social status, you know? There's always a way out. And then how can you use your creativity to get out of it? And I loved the idea that there's always a way out. Like I'm one of those like corny optimists that I feel like there's always a way out, and even if you messed up, there was a reason why. So I like, that's just how I started. Like, and I think I've always been that way. So now through COVID, and I was a homeschooler, my children and I had nothing to do. We were stuck at home, and how to as- before COVID, we would go out, we would engage in different activities, different classes with other people, so like our social and like educational needs were met.
Mm-hmm.
But once COVID came, I can teach my kids, but I can't be their peers. You know what I mean? Like, I believe that kids should learn among their peers. So I was like, okay, how do we do it? And we decided to do like a wood workshop, even though we had no idea how to work with wood, But we were like, all right, well, we'll teach ourselves. We bought books, we got on YouTube, we learned a few projects, and we set up a workshop, and it worked. It was great. Like, there I had a way to make an income, just in case like my job stopped, you know,
Mm-hmm.
functioning through COVID. And two, my kids were learning, and again with their peers. So like that was just like another confirmation. Like, you see, like there's always a way, no matter how bad it looks, that you can use your skills and just get what you need without having to like tap into like other people. I mean, if you do need
Mm-hmm.
you need to, but you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
you can just really, really do a lot just on your own.
And you made a point there about creating another source of income just with your skill set.
Right.
And we look at it a lot of us, black and brown folks, we grew up on the kitchen economy. You was doing somebody's hair in the kitchen,
For
you were
sure.
selling
Like,
dinners, you were, sewing something for somebody, whatever you
yeah.
could do out of your home with the skills of your hands, and the openness of your heart. That's how you fed your family.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like this is something that's ingrained in us, and but there's almost a stigma like that's not enough, you know.
Yeah,
Like,
that's true.
these things should be a side hustle. These things should be, I do this on the side, but I have XYZ. Like there should be no shame in, I work with my hands. You
Yeah,
know,
it's
this is
true.
what I do. These are skills that I have.
It's true.
So,
But it's that I think people like, our society got caught up with academia at one point.
mhm,
Everybody had to go to college. That's the way to do it. That's the way to come out of poverty. Was like either like academia or like become a celebrity or something. Like
mhm,
that was the only like but being a carpenter, like no, like that was like, after a while it was kind of shameful, right? Like it was not high class enough
mhm.
to work with your hands. And I don't know. I think now we're going back to the roots because things are getting hectic.
I mean, necessity is the mother of invention. So we're
Yeah,
just reinventing the wheel. And it's funny you talk about carpentry because I am the daughter of a professional carpenter
that's so cool.
for over 30 something years. You know, moved out of state, moved to New Jersey as a carpenter, six-figure income as a carpenter. He went to an Ivy League school, said, forget that, we chose a different path, and still we look at everything has to have a monetary return. And we're like, oh, people that work with their hands, we can't survive. Yes, you can.
Yeah, I was telling my husband, I'm like, we have two sons. I'm like, if one of them wanted to be a welder, I'll be all for it. Do you know how much money a welder makes? Like you said, six-figure income. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like in high demand. You can pick the job that you want, and then you get a skill that you can like do a side hustle. You can make jewelry, you can make other things, and then like
Mm-hmm.
sell it. Like it's just kind of like endless. When you start working with your hands, like you can always make a hustle, like always. You know, and I think that
Absolutely.
like I have two boys, so I just if anything, if I teach them anything through homeschooling is that you can do whatever you want, like what in a good way or in a bad way, but you really have the power to do whatever you want, and b like get a skill that's gonna make you comfortable and like if you're gonna be a provider in a home, you'll be a provider in a home. You know what I mean? Without being stressed out, without being like, scrambling. And now now I have a son or a daughter, and I don't know how to provide. Like if you have a skill, none of that happens. Like never, they will never have that problem. They may have like, well, maybe I don't want to do that now. Now I want to change my career kind of
Mhm.
situation, but they won't have like, how do I feed my family kind of problems.
Right.
You know?
Right. There's
And
always something you can do.
yeah, because look now, like people who went to college, they're having a hard time now, like finding work. Maybe people don't want to take, a vaccine to keep on working, but they have to because that's what their employer is requiring or the mandates, like it's a lot of things that you just don't have like the freedom, to pick and choose if you're just like reliant on a company or a corporation or, you know, another boss.
Yes. For those of us that don't like having bosses.
I mean, I got a boss. I still have my work that's not independent, but that's what I'm working toward. Finding a
Mhm.
way to become totally independent. That I can just expand my children and my family. Like
Mhm.
hopefully it becomes a family business. But I'm trying to be completely independent because I feel like when I work for somebody else, I can't totally create. You know,
Mhm.
I don't have the freedom. My schedule is like divided, and then also I don't have that fire. And
Right.
like it's kind of like a pillow. It's like a comfort pillow that I'm not totally. dedicated to my own, you know, business.
There really are so many layers to this because you want to look at monetary value, right? How do you make enough to support yourself? How do you make enough to support your, well, if you have a family or a household or whatever the case may be, how do you make enough to provide?
Hmm.
But you're also looking at, okay, you say you do go to college. Unless you're going on a full scholarship, you're coming out with debt.
Heavy.
Whereas a lot of these trade schools, or even people that are self taught, you know, these are hurdles that they may not have to overcome,
That's
or
true.
it would be a much smaller amount and a quicker turnaround. A lot of trade schools are what, 6, 12, 18 months versus 4 years for a piece of paper that
It's
most of
true.
us don't even use.
It's
And I'm
true.
not saying one outweighs the other depending on how you move through life, but you have more options. We all have more options. And that's the point of being autonomous. I can do what I want. I can do what works for me and I don't have to follow this preconceived path in order to get where they tell me I need to go. I may not even want to go where they tell me I need to go.
True. It's true. It's true. It's very true. And then they'll look at you like you're crazy. Like, what do you mean you don't want to go there? You
Hmm.
know? But I forget who I was listening to, but it's true. Like, it's just because it's just fear. It's fear. It's fear what people will say, people, what your family will see you as, like, will you make enough money? Will you get there? Like, it's just, I think fear is the main thing that keep people from like believing that they can be autonomous.
Absolutely. Um, And it's not even fear of failure, it's the fear of the they. Well, they say I
Ah,
can't.
it's bad.
Like, who is this? It's like a secret society of like
Wait,
gremlins. Like,
no,
who is the
I
they?
think about it all the time. It's your family, you know.
Hmm.
It's the people around you, your friends, your neighbors, like your coworkers. It's like those people that like because like your family will say like, and they mean they're the best. They mean
Hmm.
they have like they mean it with a lot of love. Like, be careful. Like, no, get the
Hmm.
degree so that you can have the security. And then no, 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 no. Try to be. This is the safest route. This is the safest
Hmm.
route. And then if you're going the other way, suddenly you're like hard headed. You're like a little
Hmm.
rebellious. You're just whatever. And then of course you don't want that. It just it causes people to say things like, to this day, my son is 10. I have a 10-year-old. He's going to be 10, and I have an almost 10 and an almost 3. Until this day, 10 years of homeschooling, my family is like, so when are you going to like send them to school? And I'm like, I'm not. Like, I'm not. You know what I mean? Like, there's a reason why I chose to homeschool. And
Hmm.
it's not like suddenly I'm just going to change. Like, now if my children want to go to school, I'm not going to stop them. Like, I'll let them go and have that experience. But if they're happy being homeschooled and I'm happy homeschooling them, there's no reason for me to change, you know?
I think part of that fear, especially for, I'm going to keep bringing it back to us because this is about our bubble. Um, for Black and Brown people, safety meant um, safety meant assimilation.
Yeah.
You know, what would keep you from standing out? What
Yeah.
would don't rock the boat too much because they're gonna come get you. you
Yeah.
know, so
Yeah.
it's this idea that if you follow this preconceived route, and it's not just safety. It's like, well, you have this status, right? I went to school.
Well, I
I'm
was
one of
going
the
to say
good
safety
ones,
and success.
whatever that means. But it's like,
True.
oh, you can read, you're one of the good ones. You
Yeah.
don't look like them, you're one of the good
Yeah.
ones. So it's
Yeah.
this proximity to, fuck it, this proximity to whiteness. I'm gonna say it. that some it's
There's
true.
no other way to say it. It's true. It's true.
It's
It's true.
true that somehow, like, the closer you got to what they deemed as success, like, I do this whole thing talking about respectability politics. Fuck all that. That's
No.
another story. That's another story. But it's like the closer you get to this line of what is deemed acceptable by the other, then the more safe we're supposed to feel. But by the same token, the more we try to get where they are, the more we're beating our heads against this wall. Like, you're never going to get there. And
Yep.
it's not because a lack of something that we have. System ain't set up for that.
Yep.
So why are we still trying to follow this? Go the fucking other way and do what you got to do.
Yes. Yes. That's why I homeschool. I'm like, the system is meant for my boys to go to jail, or just to be downed and
Robots.
and be exactly and be all the same. And if they're a little bit different, they're gonna be made fun of. And if it's like, I went to school, I taught in school, I worked at a school as a therapist. Like, my mom is a teacher, my sister, like, I know the system
Hmm.
in good schools, bad schools, whatever. I know how it works, and I didn't have a good time in school. Like, like, if you have a free spirit, it's going to get like stomped on.
Hmm.
Like, it really is like, and I just didn't want that, and I don't want that, and it's okay not to want that, but I understand that the fear. I understand the fear, but I really think we need to get out of it, like ASAP, because it's like what I was telling you. It's just not good for our mental health. How many people are doing things that they don't even like having careers that they have no interest,
Hmm.
no joy in it. Every day they wake up to do something they hate, you know, all because that's what they were told to do, you know that's I don't think that's a life, like I was telling my husband, like, I don't need to be a millionaire. I really do want to be, stable, to where I'm
Hmm.
not stressed out about food and shelter, and I can like take time for my mental health if I want to travel, I can, and my
Hmm.
family, but I don't need to be a millionaire, you know I really don't. I can be a thousandaire. But like, I really just want to have enough money to do what I want, basically. Because
Right.
money gives you access. You know what I mean? Like, I just want to have access to do what I want and when I want to. And you do need money for that.
And you also need to have your own time.
Your own time. But you don't need to do it one way. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just one way to get there. There's
Hmm.
so many ways to get there. And I think like people are starting to see that now, especially now with the internet and the way information is just out there. You can just learn anything online pretty much.
Do you feel like part of the stigma um with us with these things, because so much of our history is based around being laborers, that we're
Yeah,
like, nah, we don't want to do that.
I'm trying to think what were the in American history, there were, oh my god, I'm not gonna remember, but they were either like famous authors or who was I'm not gonna remember, but the debate was academia or labor, like what's more important.
Oh, that was Booker T and Du Bois.
Yes,
That was
yes,
their, yeah.
that was their beef, right? Like,
Hmm.
Um, like, I don't know why you have to pick and choose when you can just, or well, I don't think one is better than the other. Let's just say it that way. Like, there are people in my opinion, there are people who are just straight up academic people,
Hmm.
and they thrive in that field. And there are people who are just straight up laborers, like they're great carpenters, welders, farmers, makers. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, there are people who are born with like innate skills in certain areas. So it doesn't. I just don't think you have to pick. I just think you should just do what really moves you. You know?
Oh, I'm sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, no, no. I'm good.
But every successful community, every successful movement, every successful group of people needs both.
Right.
So I don't see why there's this dichotomy, like it has to be one or the other.
Yeah, I don't
In
think
order
so.
for us all to get ahead, we need the book smarts, we
Yeah.
need the
Like, you need
handicraft
both.
people.
Like, you really need both, right?
Yeah.
Like, I teach my kids. I value academics a lot. Like,
Hmm.
I want them to learn their letters, their numbers. I want them to learn how to write and work with numbers, and after that though, like it's kind of like your interest.
Hmm.
Like if science is I mean, basic science of course, but it's science. If you want to go into a branch of science, and that's on you. If you want to just work with your hands, and that's on you. Like, but I think it's both. I think you have to have the foundation of both. And then when you're like a young adult, you go into like honing one of those skills. And then by the time you're like a 24, 25, you'll be a master at your craft in a way, because you've been kind of like nurturing it all your young life. That's what I'm hoping I can, for people to start realizing. Like, I wish that I was like given the freedom to just create, and learn
Hmm.
all the different ways to create. But I followed the path of like teaching, which is fine. I don't regret it. But I wish I would have like gone more into that field as I was young when I was younger, because then I feel like I would have mastered one of those traits. But that's neither here nor there.
Oh no, it's completely relevant. I have this is a personal. I'm not going to say a personal issue, but it kind of is. It's a little peevy about the idea of being a master of things, because it doesn't matter how long you do it. It doesn't. You could do it for 30 years and still be trash, and
True.
I can pick it up tomorrow and be better than you. So
That's
this
that's true.
idea of being a master for me, maybe just because I only accept rules to know which ones to break. Um, the only thing you're set out in this life to master is yourself.
Mm,
So if that's what you're doing, even if it sends you around the world in 15 different directions, as long as you're mastering yourself, whatever comes out of that is bonus, as far as I'm concerned. Like this idea that you have to reach this, attain this level of perfection or this level of knowledge is almost unattainable. Like you're always trying to grasp, and we lose ourselves a lot in that too. It's like it's
it's
never
true.
good enough,
It's true.
you know.
It's true. I agree. Absolutely. It's not like it's not a disconnected thing. It's a whole package, right?
Hmm.
It's true. It's absolutely true.
Do
And I
you?
didn't see it. I didn't never thought about it that way, you know. But it makes a lot of sense.
Listen, don't ask me for shit, but to be me. That's about it.
Yeah. I'm finding joy in that now. I'm telling you, like
Hmm.
I feel like this has been a newfound like reality for me. Like, wait a minute, like I really don't have to listen to what people think about me. Like I really don't. Like
Hmm.
I just don't. But when you do, it stops you right in your tracks. So I think that maybe that's what it is, huh? Like people are just afraid to other people's reactions, around you when you make like a radical decision.
We feel like we need permission from somebody or something outside of ourselves to do what we feel called to do. It's like you don't need that. That's what me and Ari were talking about last week. You don't need permission.
You don't.
You really don't. Like,
And you know what? Another thing that I was discussing with another homeschool mom, like having emotional baggage will stop you
mm, that.
from, from like just going for it,
Mm-hmm,
whatever it is, just like when you have like a relationship issue with whoever, it can be your husband, your mom,
mm-hmm,
your brother, your sister, like friends, it doesn't matter. Anytime if you find yourself like stressed out, about something emotionally, think about how like you are not working on this this thing that's going to give you autonomy, or these things that are like,
mm-hmm,
do you know what I mean? Like you just get inactive, like it freezes you, you just like just stressed out about this and that, and then you start doubting yourself and questioning yourself, and this and this and that. So I think again, and that goes back to mental health, like we just got to develop tools to just work with these things that come up for us, like all these like hurdles that come up, when we're trying to reach our goal. A bunch of things come up, you
mm-hmm,
know, and for us, we're speaking for us in our little bubble, like you said, like for people of color, we have a lot of like generational trauma, you know,
Mhm.
ancestral work we have to do that
Mhm.
we cannot ignore, you know, and like these are all, it comes up, it comes up,
Mhm.
you know, and we can, it's not like, oh, I'm just gonna work on this business, you know, and like just focus on the business. Like in the path of working on the, all these things come up, a bunch of
Mhm.
things come up, you know, and it's like a total package that if you just work through, that's like when the magic happens, when you start seeing things like, oh, I didn't, you know, I got strength and I didn't care about what this person said or what,
Mhm.
oh, oh, look what I created and I had a good response. Like, you know, like something as little as posting something about yourself,
Mhm.
right? Can
Mhm.
be like so scary, but not for like, for me, it's not scary. It's not, it's not scary about like what friends feel or like, you know, like my closest one would say like, oh,
Mhm.
what is she doing? Like, what is she talking about? Like, now, what is she into? Like, now,
Right.
what is she saying? You know, like
Mhm.
that is, you know, working through those things and then
Mhm.
like still seeing like, oh, that was good. Like, that felt good. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
it's just those are the things that I feel like we have to work through because for a long time, for hundreds of years, we were told not to use these skills. You know,
Mhm.
for like a few hundred years now, like we were burned, we were scorned, we were killed. Like, you know, you couldn't do whatever you wanted to do. Like it's a safe, it's the safety thing. You would get killed
Mhm.
if you did whatever your heart and your
Right.
mind desired. You know what I mean? So like now it's like working through those fears that to us come in like weird, silly ways, but they're like fear, like they're genetically
Mhm.
encoded into our genes to fear, you know, the green light of just going for it, you know? Like it's deep, like you said, it's very layered. But
In both your occupational therapy work and working with your kids and the others that you teach, do you find that there's specific skills or specific areas that we're lacking in or we should be leaning more toward? I don't know if I worded that properly.
we as in people of color, you mean?
Hmm.
I think is that. I think is the fear of being of how your family is going to look at you if you decide to homeschool your kids, for example, or
Hmm.
if you decide to quit your job and do something like for yourself. You know, like having those fears, or just like it's fear and knowledge, really. You know, like fear comes from like lack of knowledge most of the
Hmm.
time. Is and just believing in ourselves, like that we don't have to like be this way and look like this and do these things in order to like be accepted by even our own people.
Mm.
You know, like I'm working with another few women, another two women who we want to create a space, you know, where people of color, but not just only people of color, but like, you know, like a lot of
Hmm.
people, like mainly like coming together as like it's we were thinking of a name being like ancestral creative wellness, right? So like a lot fits into that, you know, like
Hmm.
what did our ancestors do like to create, to thrive? Like what did they do, you know, like, and how do they do it, and how can we get there again, you know, via therapy, via consulting the skies and astronomy and astrology, via farming, via building, via all of those, you know, ancestral
Hmm.
ways. You know, like how can we just start doing that now and getting with people who want to do that again? You know,
Right.
and like service each other in a way, kind of like a community. You know what I mean? Like a network of people. Like because I think there's pockets of us
Hmm.
everywhere. Do you know what I mean? But we're
Hmm.
not connected. We're
Right.
not working together. We're
Right.
just, you know, when we meet each other, we're really excited. You know what I mean? But like for
Hmm.
the most part, you're explaining. Yeah, I was telling him like I want to meet people who I don't have to explain all these things.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Like I want to meet people who, or hang out with people who we're just like like growing each other, like
Hmm.
watering each other. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like that. Like I think that's what we're lacking. Like community, networking, this
Mm-hmm.
kind of people, this sort of mentality, this kind of mind frame. Like we're just like we're scattered everywhere, and it can be like 10 of us in a town. We have no idea we're in one town. You know what I mean? Like we have.
But that, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Now I was gonna say like those people, those 10 families have children that can be like playing with each other, like learning
Mhm.
together. Like parents can be probably networking together, but we don't know like where we are. Like
But that all goes back to the intentional setup of the system because we come from people who thrive on community.
right,
Community is how we have existed as a species. You know,
right,
we ate together, we traveled, we did everything together. And then came this moment in history where we have to split them up. If we split them up, they can't fight back. So
and
we're
gang them up
still,
against each other.
right, we're still working through that distrust for each other, not being able to access each other. It's like I'm here, but I don't know how to put out the bat signal to get everybody else, you know?
Right.
So we're all kind of struggling with these ideas of how do we create the community. And then this infighting and competition thing that we've also learned to feed into blocks a lot of the blessings too.
It's true. It's true. Absolutely. I agree.
Just because I'm doing something doesn't mean you can't do it too. Let's
Exactly.
figure out how to work this together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Especially, right. Yeah, you're right. Like, I've even felt that. I'm like, do I let my secret? You know what I mean? Like, it's like
Hmm.
we're conditioned to like just want to keep and hoard things on your own. But like, really, like, if you do it in like in a team or in a group, it's much more powerful. It's much bigger. It's much better. Like, I really believe that you need a team to like make a big impact. Like I can do things on my own and affect like, throughout my lifetime, I'll affect a few
Hmm.
people. Of course, like I I know I will because I'm in that career, like I can say that within my lifetime I'll affect a few people. But
Hmm.
if we collectively get together and do things on a collective level, we're affecting hundreds, if not thousands of people throughout our lifetime. Like, and I think that's what you're, going back to that. Like, there's a reason
Hmm.
why we were split up and ganged up against each other, and because like it's powerful, like the power is in numbers.
I think that it's going back to what you were saying about the ages of your children. I think it's very important that you're starting them so young. Not just on actually learning skills, but the idea that they have freedom to decide, the idea that there's not just one path.
Yeah,
And it's funny the things that you learn as a child, how they resurface in your life down the line. Because going back to my dad, right? When he used to do side jobs, it was a family affair. Like me and my brother, we were there. Like that's how I caught the chicken pox, sleeping in a closet in a
so
house he was helping to build.
oh
So
no.
like it was, we were all in there. I could spackle a wall like
Oh my
nobody's
goodness,
business
nice.
in elementary school. So dead ass in elementary school. So when I was in pastry school, right? We're doing chocolate work and we're doing icing cakes and stuff. And they put that shit in my hand. I
I was
said,
gonna
wait
say.
a minute. I know how to do this. I called my dad and then like we had a lunch break where I said, Dad,
Oh
yo,
my
they gave me a spatula.
god.
I know what to do with this
That
thing.
is so
It's
funny.
just like spackling. Like so the way the generational how we pass information. I
Yeah,
feel like not having these actual interactions and sharing the knowledge and not
yeah,
being afraid to pass it down,
yeah. It's true.
we can no longer afford to break the chain. The chain has been broken too many times. So the fact that you're
Yeah,
starting your kids so early
yeah,
is
yeah.
a
I
huge
agree.
part.
Like, I am so if I am so like thankful, right? That like either that I was given like the just the idea to even like to homeschool, just that like
Mhm.
to the power to think that I can do it because like there's nothing more special to me, honestly, than like spend quality time with my kids every day. Like we do life together every day, like the good and the ugly, like
Mm-hmm.
we literally spend our days together, and they see us struggle and they see us succeed. They see us like troubleshoot, they see it all. They see all of it. And I think, like you said, that is the most valuable lesson, because, you hear that cliche saying, like, teacher, do as I say, not as I do. Like,
Mm-hmm.
no, it's really, kids learn through what they see you do, and I'm like, if anything, like, I hope that my kids can be like, if they're in a tough situation, they can be like, I can get out of it. No, what, all right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like that is so valuable for, in so many ways, like for your mental health. Like, so many people get stuck just by failing one time. It's
Mm-hmm.
just the end of their life. You know what I mean? Like, when it can be just like, no, you can just do something else. That's like, because I guess because I have been like, just, I guess, the black sheep of my family, which I've just like, if I decide I'm gonna do something for good or bad, I'm just gonna go ahead and do it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that when I was young, I was like, wait a minute, if I can make anything happen, I better just start dreaming like good things, like, because if I can make some bad decisions, I can make really good ones and make that happen. Like, it goes
Mm-hmm.
both ways. Like, you can just make a bunch of great decisions, like, not a great decisions, but like, you can just manifest whatever you want, essentially, if you just follow it through. you know it's just harder, it's just a little bit more difficult, and you have to be more persistent, but you know you can do whatever you want.
And that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
So let's talk about these workshops and classes of yours.
Hmm.
Or let's rewind that a little bit. As an occupational therapist, how do you find those that work in tangible crafts, or however the hell you want to say it? I don't know. How do you how do you find that they respond? Do they respond better? Do they like how does it affect people that have given themselves the freedom to do or create or you know skills?
Like, in occupational therapy, it can be like in many settings, right? You can
Hmm.
be in rehab when people have accidents or strokes. It can be whatever, like, you're rehabilitating. You can be at a school. You can be an independent contractor. You can be in so many settings. I was more attracted to the setting of, like, creating my own lane, essentially,
Hmm.
where I love working with kids, and I see the value of, like, getting lost, like, in the activity,
Hmm.
and then suddenly you can work on so many skills. Just, let's just say, building a wooden box, right? Like,
Really?
working like just a little box. You're just gonna build a little box. Suddenly now I'm working on somebody who may have a disability, like, in their mind. They had a stroke and they don't know how to do something in steps. Like, they forget how to do something in a sequential manner.
Hmm.
Building a box, right? Perfect. It can be a carpenter who had a stroke and he needs to go to work. Now, like, how can we put him back to work, with half of his body not working? You know what I mean? It can be a child who has autism and doesn't know how to follow instructions. How follow these instructions? Let's build a box. You know what I mean? Like, this
Hmm.
is what I was telling you. Like, building and creating something can address so many different, like, skills and deficits. You know, like, somebody can be depressed and they make a beautiful flower pot and they love flowers, like, and throughout the process they through why they're upset. They work through they problem solve many blockages that they experienced by just building that pot. You know what I mean? Like, there's just
Hmm.
so that's how I see occupational therapy in, like, in these workshops. Like, sometimes it can just be regular typical children taking the class. Sometimes there are children in that class who need more assistance, or who have a deficit, or who need, do you know what I mean? Who need a little bit more assistance, and then at the end they completed a project among their peers, and they feel accomplished. So that's kind of like how I use these workshops. And then and they have a skill. Like they literally have a skill. So they work through so much. Like, and I just love that. And that's really what I wanted to do when I went to school. Like I was hoping to get in something like this, and I'm like really happy that I've gotten into this lane, because I feel like I want to stay here and develop it a little bit more, and that's what you and I were talking about, collaborating in other different workshops, but it's the same idea,
Mm-hmm.
like helping people see that they can do something really hard and feel really good about it at the end, through whatever deficit they experience just through the process. Like you'll experience, right? Like you mess up and you have to start again, and need another din, and you need another that, and you can't give up, because then you're not going to have what you need to have it. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
once your brain starts like doing that more often, then it translates into other facets of your life, into other areas where, like, oh, you know what, that phone call that I made didn't work out, let me make another one, let me call somewhere else, let me do, you know what I mean, like,
Mm-hmm.
let me try a different thing, like you will, it literally it translates to other areas. And that's like where I'm at with these workshops.
I'm marinating in that because that makes absolute sense, and I feel like we don't necessarily look at it that way. Um, like we started in the beginning talking about the stigma of working with your hands versus wearing a suit to work or whatever. The idea that not just repetitive, but this is a different way to teach those critical thinking skills and
Yeah,
spatial development and all of these different things that are just as valid and just as valuable as you know your academic degrees or
absolutely,
those other
absolutely.
things, because I don't want to put one over the other, because like I do everything in my life, I live in this world of both.
Right, but you said it. That's kind of like where you got to be. You got to
Hmm.
master yourself, and it's like a balance. There's a balance that needs to be kept.
Hmm. Thinking, how do we translate the importance, or how do we rid ourselves? I can't. We. I'm not going to say it's necessarily going to happen overnight, because that's a stupid assumption to make. But how do we start remembering the value? And I think we're starting to see it a little bit, and starting to see like this shift away from what the norm has been, because
Yeah,
realistically this shift is only taken 2 generations.
true. Hold on. I gotta plug my computer so it's off. Hold on. I'm
That's
sorry.
okay, it's okay. um so while we think through that, drop some comments if you have questions, and let us know what you're thinking as far as where I don't want to say we're pitting them against each other, because we're not, but the idea of the necessity for tangible hands-on skills versus just saying, I went to school and that should be enough. Because a lot of us are finding that that's not enough in this current climate. There's so many people with degrees that are
Yeah,
out of work
for real.
because, one, they never took the time to explore their other options. A lot of the degrees that we kind of funneled ourselves into were to get a paycheck and not feed our passions or our
Right.
creativity.
It's true.
Um, so how do we work around that? How do we come back to, drawing back the people in to say it's okay to be handy? It's okay. Like a lot of people are like, oh, I don't do that. Oh, that's manual labor.
I know, right?
Like,
True.
for me, it's playtime.
Me
So,
too, right? I'm like, really? That's like a luxury to me, to like be able to have the time,
hmm
to explore my creativity. Like that's luxury to me.
hmm
I don't know. I think it's not for everyone, that's for sure. You know
hmm
what I mean? Like I think that's what we have to just accept, that like that's not for everyone. Even for our people. Like
hmm
may have came from that, but at this point they just don't want that, and that's okay too.
Mhm.
And that, again, going back to, that's why I feel like we just need to build a community, kind of like a space where we can just go and access these services, like these, just people that, I really would think that that's what the key is, like finding a way for the community to get together and people have access to this. Like, I why should I don't know how to say it without being politically incorrect, right? But
We
like,
don't care.
why can our people access our workshops? Do you know what I mean? Most of the time, you'll see that. I mean, I don't know exactly how to promote it to our people, but most of the time, if you promote certain services like this, like these,
Hmm.
most of your participants are going to be white. I guarantee you, they will. That's been my experience. It's been my peers, other
Hmm.
people who are trying to do the same in different areas and fields. Like, that's who is accessing us. Like, we have to find the value in these things too.
There you go. I was getting ready to say it. Because for those outside of us, it's a luxury.
Yeah,
For us, it's like a must. So we get caught in this um, almost anxiety, you know, of because we don't give ourselves the freedom. There are other groups, where, like I said, this is a luxury. Hey, I just want to spend X amount of dollars and learn something just for the hell of it. Whereas we feel like everything we do has to become, a return on investment. We have to make that our source of income. We have to make that our life, and we don't just take the second to breathe and be like, maybe I do this because I like it.
right.
Maybe I do this because it makes me feel good. Maybe I do this because, like you said earlier, I'm not doing this to be a millionaire, but I can make some money off of it. Like, everything doesn't have to be the thing. And I think we don't allow ourselves the freedom to do that.
Yeah, and it's funny because, like, once you kind of like let go of that, it becomes a little bit more tangible. You know what I mean? Because it's like
Mm-hmm.
pressure. It's a lot of pressure to feel like, oh, like, like, if you think about it, like, think sometimes I'm like, okay, I would love to just, literally, I've had this like thought of, I just want to do certain things, like go to the park in certain neighborhoods,
Mm-hmm.
and just run a workshop, like just run it
Mm-hmm.
and see who comes, and see who wants to participate and see what happens, you know? But then I'm like, I don't have time, like, I'm doing this thing. I have to, like, if something just something stops me, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm gonna stop stopping myself. I'm gonna start little, and doing little things with my kids, of course. Like, everything, I'm always like, I check it to home. So I'm like, we're gonna try to do this. But it's like little, all of my fears. We're like, we're gonna try
Mm-hmm.
this project this month and see what we can do. But like, we're just gonna start doing things where there's no return. There's no return in our investment. We're just gonna do it because our heart is telling us to do it. And then
Okay, right now. I'm sorry.
That's okay. And then sometimes when you do that, you'll be surprised what happens. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and that, like, I want to like test that out. Like, stop thinking like, oh, our people can't afford this, or they don't value that, or they don't do this, or they don't, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna start doing it and see what happens. Once a month. You know what I mean? I'm sure I can put a few hours once a month to test this out. Just a thought. You know what I'm saying? Because it's just, again, it could just be a fear of us. It can be like a preconceived notion that we have that, you
Mm-hmm.
know there isn't enough people, there isn't enough interest, there isn't enough, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but like, it's something that we all, like, my friends and I are always talking about it. Like, the other moms, other people, like, who have the same interest as us. We're always talking about, like, why is it so hard for us to link up and to get a good community going?
Fear and competition.
Yeah. I think a lot of it, yeah, that gets in the way.
Mm-hmm.
And then how do you do that? Just do the opposite. Just go ahead and do it. Go ahead
That's
and
it.
share, you know, and see what happens.
And sometimes you gotta just tell it's okay to suck. It's okay to
Yes.
be absolutely garbage at something. Like you don't wake up as a professional skilled laborer. And some people are brilliant geniuses. Like there are idiot savants in every facet of life. But most of us, it's okay to suck.
Right. You
Like
gotta work at it. Yeah.
somewhere, yeah. And we're afraid to suck. We're
Yeah.
afraid to be completely trash at something.
It's
Like that
true.
makes us somehow less than. You're learning. You couldn't tie your shoe at one point. You
It's
couldn't use the toilet at one point.
it's
Like you
true.
can be trash at things.
I know. I know. And even if you're trash and scared, you can still do it.
Do it anyway.
You know. Right? So revolutionary. It's but it's true. People get
It
we
is.
get so caught up in those little things.
It's
Like
like,
big in the big way, in a big way, in a big
hmm
way. A lot of our people are caught there. Just right there, you know.
so um do you think it's better to target the youth, or is there still room for the adults to kind of flip the switch?
No, you know what I think? I think we need to it's the adults who need to be targeted. It's the
Mm.
parents. Yeah, it's totally the parents. Like when I my daytime job, I work with kids like 3 and
Hmm.
under. And I can, I can work with them and generate a certain amount of progress within them, but to a certain degree if the parent is not collaborating. If the
Mm.
parent is in a bad space, whether it's mentally or just absent or just not active enough or just whatever it is. So it can be, a myriad of things. It can be whatever. That child is going to progress up to a certain point only. Only. I mean, only. You know what I mean? And we're talking about people, children who have some kind of delays or different conditions, so they really need help. But
Hmm.
if their parent is on it, it's crazy how they progress. It's just crazy. Like you'll have kids talking when people said they couldn't talk. You have kids walking and they said they couldn't walk. Literally, like you'll see magic happen when the parent gets over themselves, basically. You know what I mean? When they really get on it and they value the hard work and they value getting their hands dirty with and they don't care what people
Hmm.
say. You know what I mean? Everything that we're talking about, like all of that, like when they don't care, when they're fearless, when they say whatever, my kid's gonna do this and that, it's the parent. So like, yes, of course you gotta like work with the children. Of course you gotta
Hmm.
show them the way, but who's gonna show them the way? The parent.
That's true.
You
And
know?
it's almost surprising that you say that because everybody's kind of like, throw the generation away. Just deal with the kids. We almost start over with the kids. And it's like,
No,
I
that's a
mean,
big gap in there.
yeah.
You know, there's a big disconnect there. Like it's not gonna happen. Those kids are gonna be lost. They have, you know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
who's gonna get them? Of course, you're gonna have like some who's gonna make it regardless, of their childhood. But like for the most part, like you said, most of us suck. Most of us get caught up. You know what I mean? Like yes, you'll have people, the roses that grow on the concrete. Yes, they happen.
Hmm.
But for the majority, no. If they have absent parents, they lack. They just lack. It's just plain and simple. So yeah, no, it's the parents, it's the adults. We gotta lead it. We gotta lead by example. You know.
You're right. Time. It's a, yeah, yeah. So let's talk about these classes that we have coming up.
Yes. Yeah. So we're gonna collaborate on wood workshops and auto mechanics, right?
Hmm. And we didn't
And
even talk about the foraging stuff. That's a
and the
whole.
for like making medicine. Yeah, but we'll do it.
Hmm.
All of that's in the pot cooking. But I think like we're ready to go. We're ready to go on all three. But that's what we want to work on. We want to work on teaching children, young children, or well, like 10 and up, right? Or like 8 and
Hmm.
up, how to do a simple tune up, how to change a tire, how to change windshield wipes, like how to start up, how to work a car, like the basics, the basics of like cutting wood, putting it together, making a table, making a box. If
Okay.
you can make a box, you can make you can make anything else after that, you know? Like, so just that's what we want to do. We want to teach people how to work with their hands, gain a skill, and then create wellness with that. So
Absolutely.
that kind of like covers all of it. Like foraging, if you know how to forage, you'll never go hungry, and you can cure yourself with a lot of, again, simple and not. Sometimes you can cure yourself with big things, but you need
Mm-hmm.
experience and knowledge, But you can cure a cold by going out for a walk in nature and bringing it home and creating something real quick. You don't have to go to the pharmacy. You don't have to go to the doctor for a flu shot. You know what I mean? Like you can do a lot just on your own. And like we were saying, once you see these little things and you start doing them, you're like, wait a minute, I can make a little medicine. Or I can make a little box. Wait, I can do this thing that I wanted to do. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like, and then if you feel that often enough, you can start doing your own thing. Tackling the real scary things. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and I think
Just
that's
finish.
what, no, no, no. I mean, that's what we want our workshops to kind of create. Is that sense of autonomy that will
Mm-hmm.
just break that fear that you can do something, break it, and then do it again or whatever.
Right. Right. Just the willingness to try and say, "Yep, I can do that."
Yeah,
And now that the conversation has come back full circle, you can do that. And you don't have to be so reliant on outside systems or what people say you can and can't do or what paths have been laid out for you. You can choose and you can do it. Even if you suck in the beginning, if you choose to
totally.
keep up with it, you can get better. Or you
That's
just say,
right.
and I want to do something else.
That's true. It's true. You know how many times I've gone and got like went foraging and got these like really amazing plants that are like hard to get, and then messed them up and let them rot. You know what I mean? And then like felt so bad, and then like found it again, and it was that much more special, and that like
Hmm.
and you know what I mean. And I got more, but like it doesn't matter. Like you can just try it, just try, and then the next time it's gonna be a little bit better, and then by the time you do it 10 times, you found a little thing about you that you didn't know, a little skill or a little, you know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
it really like it's like that. I call it magic because I really feel like it's just magic. It's like things like wonderful things that are unexpected like happen just by you trying to do something by yourself, with yourself, and a little bit of knowledge sometimes
Yep.
can go far.
And those simple things that you tried then snowball. You know,
Yeah, it's
it really
true.
does turn into this bigger. And I love your description of how things the whole worldview kind of shifts once you realize number one, the fear is only you being afraid of yourself,
It's
and just a willingnness to play, to experiment, to say, I'm gonna try this. And then you're not afraid of the bigger things, or you're able to look at the big thing and break it down into smaller things that hey, I can knock this off because I did XYZ. Or you learn the critical thinking, and it's like, okay, I know how to approach this because I did these other things, or I have these other skill sets.
yeah.
And talk about the kids with the cars, there's grown adults that I know that don't know how to change a tire.
I don't know how to change a tire. I don't know how to change it, which is again why I thought about making one of these. Like all these things, like things that I don't know how to do, and I should know how to do. Like I should know how to do. I should know how to change a tire. I should know how to change my oil. First of all, do you know how much money I can save by just doing my own oil? Like those kind of things like bring joy to my in my life. Like saving money and things that I just like all I had to do was just learn how to do it. Like changing an oil is not that hard.
It's
Or
not.
like rotating your tires is not that hard. Or like putting new tires in your car, it's not that hard. But if you go, you have to pay, like even if it's 40, $80 for something, like that's $80. you
Hmm.
you go food shopping, or you can buy a tool for that for $80. You can buy material, you can buy so many things. But you know what I wanted to say before this conversation's over, because we were speaking about fear and like
Mm-hmm.
not letting that get in the way. The way you and I met was through a fair, right? It was
Mm-hmm.
a vending fair, and I was like, I prepared really hard for it, and like the day of the fair, right? It was raining. I didn't have a tent. I thought the venue was different than what it really was. So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I don't know if I can like, I don't know if this is like, I don't know. I just like, there was so many things that came up that I was like literally
Mm-hmm.
parked outside of the venue. And I was like, and it was rain. And then the rain was like it for me. That was like it. I was like, oh, no, 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 no. I'm just not going to do it. This is like, I'm not doing this. This is like not what I thought. This is not what I want to do. This is like, I don't know. Never, ever, ever done a vending show before.
Mm-hmm.
Like so scared. I was looking for every like excuse not to just go through with it. And I was like, oh, it was only $30, whatever, $30.
Mm-hmm.
I'll chuck it to the game, charge it to the game, whatever, right? And I am so glad that I did not like turn around and go because
Mm-hmm.
A, I met you and I met a lot of other great people, and it was just like again, it was like one of those things. It's like I pushed myself to
Mm-hmm.
a place of really big discomfort for me. It was all new. I didn't. I was just like I was really out of my skin, kind of thing. You know what I mean? And like just for doing that, I feel like I met you. I sold a couple of things. I met other people. I met another woman, a doula
Mm-hmm.
that like we're still in touch to this day. And again, and it's like that networking, and it was just like
Mm-hmm.
I just decided to do it on a whim, and then like once the day of, I was like, oh my god, what did I do? Like I'm too. Why would I even do this? Like, you know what I mean? Like I didn't even like
Mm-hmm.
post it, like advertise it until like the hour before because I was scared of everything. I was scared of
Mm-hmm.
all of it. And that was my first one, and I'm so happy that I did it because I went on to do other ones that I don't want to do them again, but I learned, you know what I mean? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's just like putting
Yeah.
it out there is like empowering, even if it's not what you think it's gonna be. You know what I mean? Like, it turns into something completely different, but good, something that you didn't see coming. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like, which is so nice, and that's what's exciting to me. Like, so now I've gotten to the point where it's like, okay, 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 that fear can be just turned on its head, and it can turn into something like exciting. Because you don't know what's gonna come out of it once you like just take the plunge. You know.
Right.
So I just want to say that.
But I mean, listen, I thrive in an environment of organized chaos. So so I have learned to jump off the cliff and just see what the fuck happens. Like because I'm not even gonna lie, like I don't like speaking in public. So this whole thing of I gotta talk to people face, you want me to do what? You want me to set up a table and say what? I gotta do it.
Right,
I
right.
gotta mingle. I got what? So I definitely understand where you're coming from, but it's that fear. Like you just gotta say fuck it, let's go. Like
Me
jump
too.
off the coffee table, and you might get a little bump on your knee, a little scrape, might bruise your ego a little bit, but you get back up
Yeah.
and you jump again. See what
Yeah,
happens.
and then some great things happen. Like
Mm-hmm.
really, you didn't even think about it. But you will never know if you don't do it. It's basically the message. Like you never know what comes out of simple little things that give you a lot of like anxiety or fear. Like just
Mm-hmm.
doing them, like literally. And that's another crazy thing. Like now you'll hear like in the therapy world, like
Mm-hmm.
this concept that we're talking about has like all kinds of different like tech like complex names, and it's just putting yourself in a difficult situation and staying there until you see it through. Like there's so much value to that, you know like the people will charge you like $100 just to like figure that out.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Just
And like just to like
Mhm.
create a little method, but it's just really that like you just have to do the things that seem really scary to you and bring a lot of anxiety to you. Like you just have to do them. Obviously we're talking in a positive context, you know what I mean?
Right.
But like doing things that are good for you, but for some reason you're scared to do them, just go ahead and do them. Like don't even question it, you know?
under the right context, it's more than appropriate to be uncomfortable.
It
Growth
is.
comes from being uncomfortable. When your clothes are too tight, you know to get new clothes or lose the weight. So the only way you
You
change
got
is
to
when
do
shit gets
something.
uncomfortable. Right. So
Yeah.
that's still that fear of being uncomfortable, be it fear of rejection, fear of not being good enough, fear of any number of things that the they have said or you think that the they are going to say, instead of giving yourself the freedom, the autonomy, the authenticity for yourself to say, I'm stand in me and I'm going to be self motivated, self governed, and do what feels right for me. And 9 times out of 10, that's when you flourish.
It's true.
That moment may not be exactly what you thought it was going to be, but it leads to the next one, or it leads to another opportunity, or somewhere you're wandering down this path of you-ness that's like, this is where I need to be.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
those
Yeah.
skills, those skills will get you there.
Yeah, for real.
However you categorize your skills. I
Mm-hmm.
appreciate being handy. I like being able to do shit myself. First thing I bought when I bought my house was a damn toolbox because you were not going to catch me slipping. But so, you talking about changing tires and stuff. I've rebuilt almost how many of my cars because we like to buy old cars. My dad likes to tinker. And being the overprotective one that he is, I needed to know how to make sure my shit worked so I didn't get caught off guard by some sleaze. Oh, yeah, I could help you. No, you can't. I can do this, you
It's
know?
true. It's
So
true. Because
there's
it's
so,
not like at the end of the day, it's not that like it's not that complicated. You just need to
right.
learn how to do it. You
And
know?
that's,
Yeah.
and it's okay. Okay, I'm going to throw this in here real quick before we get out because I only hold people hostage for like an hour and I know we're 6 minutes over. Can we stop with the I'm a woman, so I can't do this, or I'm a man, so I have to do.
No.
Listen, do what feels good, do what works for you. Because I'm sure you've had instances in your life when you're like, oh, well, women don't do that, or good girls don't do that. Say what
No.
now? That's a whole conversation for another day. But say what now? I have
No.
to get done,
I
has to
no.
get done.
No. And especially nowadays, that does not fly. Like that cannot fly at all. Like, yes, there are certain things, roles or
Mhm.
whatever. Sure. But you can do pretty much anything. You can do anything. Anything, anything, anything. That's not, biological, but you can do anything. Anything. That doesn't even cross my mind. In fact, I want to teach my kids how to sew, how to make a pair of pants and a shirt, just in case they have to.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? They learning how to cook. They're learning how to clean. They're learning how to do their laundry.
Hmm.
That's not women's work. That's not, and fixing cars and being handy is not men's work either.
It's knowing how to take care of yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I
no.
need to know that whatever happens, I'm going to be good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's very empowering. Like
Hmm.
talking about like going back into the fear based thing. Like just knowing how to do things gets rid of a lot of fears. You know, it really does. Like, or and even anxiety and stuff.
Hmm.
Just knowing how to do something, even converse, even talk to people. Do you know what I
Hmm.
mean? You gotta learn. Like I tell my kids all the time, I'm like, you shouldn't feel bad about anything. Like you weren't born knowing anything. Like you have to learn how to know how to do everything. Yes, you got skill. Certain people have strengths. You have strengths in different
Hmm.
areas. But like even in your strengths, you got to learn how to do that well.
Right.
Like you got to learn. Everything has a system.
And that's one of the things that had me turn, or actually had me create 3P as an actual resource, because this thing has been rolling around in my head for years. Like everybody comes to my house, like, oh, I if the zombies come, we're good because you know how to do XYZ, you got it taken care of. If anything happens, we're coming to Sheena's house because yada yada. And when COVID hit and everybody started losing their minds, there's no food in the grocery store. I can't do this. I can't do that. I can't get, people to come do this at my house. I can't. A lot of that stuff we can do ourselves. They're running through this. There's no bread, salt, flour, sugar on the shelf. You can
I
do it.
know.
And it's just the idea of relieving that panic is huge. I got this. And all that extra energy and all that, just, you got this. And that's really, if anything, that this program gives to people, and I'm sure you feel the same way about the things that you're teaching and how you're reaching out, the ability to say, "Oh, you got this," and
Yeah,
just get that woosah in there.
for real. It's true.
That's what it's
We
about.
got this. We really do got this. No matter what, no matter how, like this pandemic, you know what it's taught me is that at the end of the day, I don't care. You have a choice. You have choices.
Yes.
They may not be the choices you may desire,
Hmm.
but you will always have a choice. And you will have more choices if you gain like skills or if you just rely that like just that thought you got this. Like anytime we make a decision out of panic, it's most likely the wrong one, you know? And everybody right now is in panic. Everybody's in panic for so many reasons, you know? Everybody's making the wrong choice. Not everybody, but a lot of people. Do you know what I'm saying? Like a lot of
Absolutely.
people are making choices based on fear and they thrive on that. You know, like these certain systems thrive on people being scared to do their own thing. They make billions of dollars by us not doing our own thing, you know? So it's like, yeah, we have fear of generational and all that kind of, yeah, sure, 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 sure. But there's like a big like elephant in the room that's there every day and it comes in through our screens and radios and shows and everything, and it's like the sense that you should be in a panic and you don't know how to do, and you need these people and you need this service and you need that and you need this and it never is like, you know look within yourself and do. You know what we did in our house, like because of the pandemic, we joined a gym. We were like, okay, so the people who are dying from this virus are the people who have problems with their heart, problems with their blood circulation, and problems breathing. This is from the CDC. Like anybody
Mhm.
who has COPD, anybody who has heart disease, and anybody who has diabetes are the main people who are dying. Of course, you have outliers in pockets of this and that. Okay,
Mhm.
but the most people who are dying are those people. So what should you do? Exercise and change your diet, right? That is what will make more sense than any other solutions offered to you. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I told my kids. I'm like, look, we're going to join a gym and we're going to do this. We're going to go to this gym at least 5 times a week. Why? Because we need to keep our blood circulating, we need to keep our hearts beating well, and we need to like keep our breathing well. You know what I mean? Like anything outside of that, you know, to me is creating fear. You know what I'm saying? Like
It really is far more simple than we make it. We make things way too complicated for no reason.
we really do. We really do. So stuff is kind of simple. It's just that we're so afraid and and
Yeah.
and disempowered to make a move.
Mm.
You know what
Mm.
I mean? Like we're so afraid. We're so afraid. So I think that is like what we need to work on, like getting rid of the fear and creating a community like to support each other on because
Mhm.
it's hard. Like it's really hard. Not being afraid is hard when when it's being pumped at you from every angle. You know, it takes a certain mind frame and gut to just be like, no, I'm not gonna do that. you know,
It's like, you know what? I'm gonna go that way.
right? Actually, no, we're gonna go over there.
Yeah, y'all are doing. I'm gonna go over here. But but that's the bravery. That's the, hey, just do you. We take nothing from this. It's do you.
Do
You
you?
got this, and you got choices.
Yes,
Period.
that's it.
That's it. So I think it's a good time to end the sermon this week.
Amen.
So, if the people want to get in contact with you regarding your products, regarding your classes, and definitely I'm going to post the things we have coming up as the time, you know, gets nearer,
Soon,
but
very soon, very, very, very soon.
very, very soon. Um, they can reach you by your email.
Yeah, you can also like my Instagram. You can
Hmm.
DM me. I'll get back.
So, thank you very much.
Thank you. It's a great conversation. Sounds
I
like
truly
therapy on a couch.
It's the couch
It's a perfect.
conversations.
It's a
That's what
perfect
we
title.
do.
I really feel like I was like, getting some things out of my mind, bouncing it off. It's great.
Super casual. I'm not for all that gatekeeper, extra code switching. We run our mouths here. We talk freely here. Can't talk about authenticity if I'm
That's
telling you, don't say
refreshing.
this, don't do that, don't be. No, do you?
And it's so much better when you do. It's just good. Yeah.
So
All
I will
right.
be in touch with you, love.
Yes.
And thank you very, very much.
Thank you. This was lovely.
This has been another couch conversation, y'all. Next week we have Miss Karen Culpepper, herbalist extraordinaire. So we're gonna talk about
Ooh.
some plant stuff, all kinds of things cooking up.
Ooh. I
So
love it. That's
I'll
my
see you
other
on next
passion.
week.
Nice. Good night.
Bye.